Alright guys, I'm going to walk you through the entirety of all the changes I've done in the last year, from the front garden and into the back, and there's quite a lot going on. I'll try and put in some old videos of what it used to look like as well, so it's an interesting one. We'll start with the driveway, and the entire thing's been jet washed. It was basically black to start off with. This whole space was covered in probably a couple of inches of soil, and you can see there's some interesting colours in there. A few weeds started to grow through, but I'll show you what it used to look like. And then really recently I've just, you can see there's a big thing missing there. We've been chopping down this tree, and I'll have to show you where the roots go through. The roots have gone through along next door's house, but they're only small. I don't think that'll be an issue. We found this gate underneath some fencing that was on top of it, and I'm just in the process of taking it apart because I'd like to replace it with something wooden and a bit more functional. And I can show you the other side as well, especially the tree roots and how the gate was put together. And that's the shed over there. But we've revealed the patio and the paving out the front, and that in itself I think is quite a big change. But I'll show you what's happened in the back, and I'll show you what I've done in the greenhouse as well, because I've turfed it all out and given it another usage, which I think you'll be quite impressed with. So I'll just show you this actually. We're going in through the side gate, and I've cleaned all these hexagon tiles. So I'm going to clear out this side bit so I can jet wash. It looks absolutely amazing. I'm really quite pleased with that. And there are colours on them, and there's colours on the wall as well. Really old style wall. This is what it looks like as we go into the garden, and we've had a really hard frost this morning, and the tops of these barrels are filled with ice, and the boys were out breaking it up earlier this morning. I'll be using this barrel to burn. It's got no holes in, and I'll be making charcoal. This shed we bought with us from our old house. There's a barbecue in there, and just some old bricks and storage around the side. But I'll go straight through to the back where we saw that gate, and this whole patio area was jet washed as well. It took me absolutely days. Lots and lots of patio to jet wash. I don't know how far we'll get. Icy water this morning and some ice there, and a cold and frosty morning, but it's going to be a beautiful day with the sun coming out. But I'll show you what I've done in the greenhouse, and then I can show you the back of that gate. I've emptied out all the pots, but I've filled it with all the wood. We've had a bit of a struggle. This year's been very, very wet, and I was thinking, God, I'm never going to get to burning it for to making charcoal, because it's just so wet. But then I realised that I've got an indoor space that I can be drying out the wood on, and I can burn it on the patio near the supply of wood. Just behind the greenhouse, we're on the other side of the house where the gate is, and we've got a water butt that we do use for water from the greenhouse, and then various pots with bits and pieces in. This is lemon thyme. There's a tayberry there which needs planting out, and then some rather nice flowers here that could do with planting out as well. So there's going to be a big sort out of all these pots anyway. Now we go through the shed to the back of this gate. You can see my crowbar still down there. I need to put that away, and there's lots of plastic waste here. So that's all going to be cleared up. We'll have to put in the rubbish bin. But there were 2 bolts, 2 nuts and a bolt holding this together, and I couldn't get them off because they were too rusted and degraded, so I had to take an axe to it. And this is what I can open it if I take off those zip ties and go to the front, but I'll leave them on for now. These are the roots that are coming out from it. So once this is active, I'll have to repave the flooring, and I'll show you where. I'll go back out to the front. I'll show you where I've got some paving in the back corner of the garden, and then I'll show you some other stuff we've been doing. And the big update is the chickens, really, and also I've been planting some crops for next year, so I'll show you those. But that's the last of the bits from the greenhouse. There's yellow raspberries and then strawberries there still needing to be planted out, and that's a water feature in there. The well goes down, it's kind of like a water basin below it, and then we found this little Buddha statue. So we can walk through some of the other changes. We've got a water barrel there as well that we've been using to help water the greenhouse, and there's some shells on top, some crabs that we eat, and then some scallop shells, and I'll be bashing them up to give the chickens some grit to help them digest their food. This is the side of the shed that's just a bit of a dumping ground. Needs a bit of a tidy up, really, so we'll get to that at some point. And here's where we've been doing shredding, and the ground's taken a bit of a beating, but I put down new grass seed and I'm sure that will recover quite easily. And there's 2 ways through this garden. There's through the right hand side, or there's the left hand side through all the tunnels. So I'll just show you through the right hand side over the grass, over to where we've been planting some things, and then I'll give you a big view of the garden, and then we can go back through the tunnels. Here we've got some onions growing up already. We planted them a month or 2 ago, just bashed them in the ground really quickly. There's some garlic here, and then there's various cuttings that I've put in the ground. They're roses. There's some rosemary there, and then there's some more roses here. And it looks like they're doing quite well. The first batch I put in has these shoots coming out already, which makes me think that they're, see these? Makes me think they're successful. They've not been in long. And then the garden disappears into the corner up there, and it's got lots of mature trees surrounding it, which is really nice. And I'll just walk back down, and we'll go up through the secret pathways on that left hand side of the garden, and I can show you all the other changes that have been taking place. So I'm going to cut this fuchsia back quite hard actually in the spring, because it's kind of blocking this pathway, but you can push through it, it's not too bad. And there's another fuchsia just down there, and then there's this buxus ball, so we chopped that right back because it's taking up a huge amount of room. Going to take this thing out. Thought about it for quite a while, but it's just in the way, don't like it. It's not really serving any purpose for me, and stops you seeing through the garden, and it was just really in the way. And it's, yeah, it's much better. It's grown back really well, so I didn't think it would survive. And we've got a lovely little rose here, and then there's this thing which is incredible, and I'll show you one of the flowers close up. So it's a winter flowering bush. I think it smells good as well. Let's have a look. Yeah, it's really fragrant, really nice. And we've got this, you can see it better now that a lot of the leaves have come off this winter flowering bush. There's a climbing rose going up it, and that's really nice to see. In fact, it's made its way quite far up, so I definitely want that just continuing its journey up, growing through that bush. I think previously it might have been cut back. And then if we go back on ourselves down this other path, you go down to a bit of a dead end where the shed is, and all that stuff is kind of just being dumped for now. And there's the path we went up through on that side. So it's a bit of an unused dead end actually, that corner of the garden. So I am thinking of taking down one of those conifers, but we'll have to see. Oh wow, I haven't seen. Wow, this is amazing. Wait until you see this. Look at all these purple berries. I haven't quite seen them yet. Wait until I show them to the boys, although they'll probably start trying to pick them. They are all over this bush, and I must say I had written this bush off because it wasn't producing any leaves until really quite late in the summer, so I think it had quite a shock in the last winter. And then we go through here, and this is one of the biggest changes. You couldn't see through here, it was just completely dense, overgrown. This is just pretty much dense, fairly dense under. That's the chair that I sit on in nicer weather, supervise the boys on the swings. But around the garden and in patches I've planted clumps of bulbs. I've also planted a couple of verbena, and one up there, and it's here that's been one of the biggest changes, and it's been great for the boys to play in. Laid down some grass seed, chopped everything back. We've got some sort of hole in there that I'm happy to leave. Don't know what's using it, but it'll be a badger or a fox. And I've not stuck my hand in there to see how far it goes, but I'm sure it goes quite far. And then through here, all this was covered in ivy, totally covered, totally swamped by ivy, absolutely everywhere. Ivy is covering the entire floor, all the way along here. It's choking up the tree, see it choking up all these trees, and then it's hanging down here, just ivy absolutely everywhere. So we've got to clear through this area, and there's a fruit tree in there somewhere, not very productive, it's just a bit overgrown, and this main plant gives off really nice yellow flowers, and these flower really nicely as well. So big changes here, and I'll just walk you through to the far back corner of the garden. So we're quite shady back here. We've got lots of tree cover. That's a laurel, which I will cut back in time, and that'll give us wood chip. And there's a big pine tree, big one over there. And this is one of the biggest changes of them all. So we've taken down a bit of the fence just because it was rotten, and filled up these Daleks, so they're the start of the composting journey. And then we've used a little bit of this compost already on this right hand side, but a lot more of it needs digging out. But we'll be able to process a lot of the there's a good couple of feet on top, that will be going through the chickens. And here's some fresh wood chip that's waiting to be processed, but we're keeping it out of the chicken coop for now because I'm just seeing how what we've already put in there is going. And this is the chicken coop. Back into the garden, we've got this sort of compost area. We'll be at some point digging out this compost heap. It's got an awful lot of really good soil to use. Anyway, I'll show you in a bit. I've pulled these bricks out. They were lining another temporary compost heap, and I've pulled out a lot of the soil. We've cleared all the ivy away from here, and there's yet another pile of just random compostable stuff people have dumped over the years. And in the longer term, that once this area's cleared a bit more, we might be able to keep some chickens here. And then some sort of hard standings. We don't know where all the patio is here, but there's so much to do. And this is the sort of back corner of the garden, so gently get in, and I've got to lock myself in, otherwise they will get out. And so I'll be building an additional run for them, but this is the start of the composting system, and it's something that I've been really interested in creating. So I rake up that pile every day, every 2 days, and underneath it, so it's all wood chip really, and some leaves, and here's some of the fresh stuff, the green stuff. And it acts as a deep bedding mulch for the chickens, so it stops any smell. Oops. Stops any smell from building up in the chicken run. And this pile is slowly being degraded down into compost. The chickens are scratching it away. And so this is the engine of fertility really for the garden, which is pretty exciting for me. I've wanted to do this for a long time, and we want to grow some potatoes next year and some other things. Yeah, there's an egg in there for the boys to find. But what I do is it's interesting, I've been filling up the nesting boxes with fresh they're scratching around with fresh wood chip, for which we can use some of our own stuff now that we've got enough compostable material in here. And the wood chip goes into the nesting boxes, and then it's scraped out little by little into the main part of the hen house as it gets poo on it, so it's always fresh in the nesting box. And then once it gets a bit full up in here, this is just pulled out and then emptied out onto the compost pile. And so that's our input, and it processes through and then composts nicely into the garden ultimately. And one idea I've got, I'll just let myself out. One interesting idea I've got that I think I probably will try is to build a run for the chickens to go out onto the grass, because we've got quite a high predator pressure here with foxes. There's a lot of two foxes who've lived here all their lives, and so they're not going anywhere. I want to put them in a run on the grass, and then put down compost, little piles of compost, so they can scratch that around and scratch it into the grass, just to build fertility really into the grass. And they'll be pooing on there, putting their nitrogen rich poo in the grass as a fertilizer, and so it'll be a really nice natural way of building up the life in the soil, and getting some longer, healthier looking grass, because I think it's going to be quite prone to drought. It will just go brown really quickly. It did last summer, and we've had such a wet year. So this is the back border at the back of the garden, and it stretches really quite far. This section we've turned into what we call the berry farm for the boys, and there's all sorts of herbs and berries, and there's even an apple tree there. I'll show you a few things. There's a yellow raspberry plant there. That's a rhododendron. It's done really well, and the forsythia on the back wall, so we'll have some really nice flowers. But in terms of food production, some thyme down there, and there's some oregano and rosemary, and now that rosemary's got its feet in the ground, it's going to really take off, and you can see it's put on quite a lot of growth in the last year already. I think it just went in the summer. There's raspberry bushes at the back, and there's various different gooseberries and tayberries, and all sorts of other things going on. There's a bit of sage down there. So what was here before was just this one bush, and it just lined the front of the bed and shaded everything in the back. So the thing we're going to take out is this thing. It's a bit of a no-brainer, this one. It's a bit ridiculous actually, because if you see it, it's got a little bit of foliage on the front face, right at the very foremost part of the border that it could possibly be, and then all this space behind it in the border. Done no weeding whatsoever in the back there. We've only added plants, left some autumn leaves onto mulch. I don't need to clear leaves from the borders. They're great for just building life and fertility in the soil, so I'm happy to just have them blown on the borders every day. And then as we go along, we've got a giant blackcurrant plant that we got from someone's allotment, so we're really grateful for that. Look, it's enormous. And then just down here is a kiwi plant, and I'll be really interested to see if it does have any kiwis. Looks like it's losing all its leaves, and then we're going to train it up this tree. So this tree will house the kiwi plant and give it a bit of sun, a bit of a trellis to climb up. Right in the back there is a white currant, and then a whole row of raspberries along the back wall. Another big hackback on this back border. It was basically this bush that we've hacked it back to about 3 foot high. It was dominating this entire area, and it came right to the front, and again it was blocking all light behind it, so all of this area where you can see all this soil. So we've got loads of raspberries. We'll have a closer look at that row from one of the boys' teachers' allotments. They were digging up. They basically doubled their allotment size, and what they'd inherited already had a big raspberry patch, and so they were going to get rid of a smaller raspberry patch they already didn't need, and so they generously donated us some plants. But we've got all sorts going on in here. There's a magnolia. This is a seedling from the front, a sapling. I can't quite think what it's called. And then various different geraniums. That one has an incredible smell down there from one of my customers' gardens. And then there's some verbenas, and also we've been collecting wild seeds from our garden as things have been flowering. Dahlia there, my boy bought from the Malvern show, and then various other plants that I'm very, very interested in seeing next year. Some Rebecca over there, 2 of them, and wait until you see this. It's another hole, and it's by this rhododendron, which has got a lot more sun now. Big hole down there, and it's right by its root ball as well, so you can see rhododendrons are pretty much bulletproof. You couldn't kill them if you tried. It's a laurel, probably from the roots of this laurel, and I've chopped this back really quite significantly, and that's given us a lot of mulch and wood chip. But there's more to chop back. All that stuff overhanging can go. And then this is our row of raspberries, brand new raspberries. So the boys are going to have a huge amount of raspberries to pick from next year, and they've really enjoyed just those 2 bushes we had this year. It started to fruit really well from about late July onwards, and only just stopped about 4 weeks ago, so they've had loads and loads of fruit from that. And actually, yeah, as we go along this border, so that's the back border, we're at the other side of that long back border, and there's the chicken house right in that corner, and the boys' climbing frame over there. And it's really nice having all these mature trees. Actually, that big tree in the middle of our garden is a cherry tree, but the birds get all the cherries, enormous volumes of cherries. So as we come back round to this border, it's on the side of the house, and we pulled out another big bush. Well, we just trimmed it back, and it's given us an enormous amount of space to do some planting of these cuttings and the onions and the garlic. You can see here, look, if we go to the back of the border, there's a path that the badgers and the foxes take. It's the hole through to next door. You can see the sun is coming through on that side. The sun's over there. Step over the onions. And then we've weeded out a monoculture of lords and ladies. It was just swamped by one type of plant, and so I wanted to get rid of that. I want variety in the garden. And that's a pretty decent loop of the garden and the front. So there's been a lot of change in the last year, less than a year, of our new garden. And it's the boys' mud kitchen. So I hope you've enjoyed the tour, and if you subscribe, you'll see all the changes that are yet to come